connection, and opportunity. All in one place. Come join the community. So text it now, don't wait in line. Fight for life. 949298295. That's 94925.
They discovered it, they read it, and they applied it. It's the golden thread that connects the titans of the self-development industry, the source that spawned millions of millionaires, the original blueprint to success.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Think and Grow Rich.
Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. It's a classic. A classic.
And I love Think and Grow Rich. I love it. It's right here. I mean, it's one of my favorite books of all time.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
This material is what changed my life. This is the material I study every day. From being an immigrant woman, coming from poverty, and really coming to America and literally achieving the American dream. I can't even tell you how grateful I am for this man, for what he did for me and my family.
Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve.
People don't realize is that when we let our ego get in our way, ego is the loss, the fear of loss. So need to be right, the need to be offended, the need to be hurt, fearful. When that trajectory changes, what happens is you continually go the wrong way. So my job as a coach is to say, let's get into the enjoyment of the direct pursuit of my potential. Right? And so when the light went on, it was not about the potential of making money and being an entrepreneur, which is one of my specialties. And I said to him, look, this is an opportunity now to show how great you really are. We can't let the outside voices, right, determine our success. The happiness that we have comes within. Why are you going to give that control to somebody else?
Thoughts become things. And I always wonder, why did no one teach us this? Why did we not learn this in school? Why did we not learn this from our families? If you make your study a priority, your life will change.
And I came up with 4 really valuable things that I took stock in. And the first one was gratitude. Simple gratitude. Although I grew up with nothing, I was always grateful. Throughout the whole process of consistently, persistently pursuing my potential, I was grateful. It made my past better, my present brighter, and my future even brighter than that. In fact, I tell people all the time, if you want to change your life, change your employee's life, your family life, it's very simple. 2 words, say thank you.
There we are.
There we are. Hey, my friend.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. It's time for the Napoleon Hill Institute training. Today's training with my co-host, Blaine Bartlett. He moves possibilities into reality. He's my teacher, my coach, my mentor for years, helping millions of people around the world understand how to make a lot of money, to help a lot of people, and have a lot of fun. Blaine, thank you for joining me on today's training.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to this. This is a good one. This is a good one today.
Yes, the danger of measuring the wrong things. And before we get into the training, I want to remind people we're in Miami. We will be, believe it or not, with Messi this evening in Miami. Meet up tomorrow. Come and see us in London in Mayfair with our private member, private investor group. Meet up, holding court, VIP dinner. Then to the Ryder Cup of Wine VIP dinner and meet up in Breckenridge, Colorado. And then to Atlanta for the full car wash again. Then Las Vegas for season 11 of Office Hours. And back to San Diego for our mastermind meetup, holding court and VIP dinner. And then back to SoFi, which we want to thank Forbes Riley, Tim Story, Anthony Trucks, and so many more yesterday. Overloaded house. And we are blessed to have the best in our mastermind series, our VIP dinner for charity, just doing the best that we can to empower others, to make a lot of money, help a lot of people, and have a lot of fun. So if you'd like to join us, you got to stay informed and invited. It's area code 949. 298 is the next three numbers, and then 2905 to complete it. 949 298 2905 as the jingle states, or you can just email me, David at dmeltzer.com. All right, it is my favorite time to get into the danger of measuring the wrong things. And Blaine, as you know, as leaders, we naturally gravitate towards what is easy to measure. And sometimes we're mistaken because the easy measurements of revenue, growth, profits, performance, these dashboards that are available for everything at the touch of our finger to create them and utilize them, they will provide valuable insights, but they don't always tell the whole story, do they? They give us clues and patterns of a complete story, but not enough information or certainty to create sustainable success. It's very difficult, and we need to see what's invisible, these assets that numbers alone cannot capture, including energy in motion, energy that's interfered with, and of course, the energy of intuition, inspiration, and intelligence that can help elevate our awareness beyond what seems to be simple. If we look backwards in history, we're reminded that favorable metrics can create the illusion of progress while making the underlying problems less distinguishable. Organizations often celebrate the quarter numbers, the reported numbers, the improving numbers, while they're overlooking declining trust, interfering cultures, innovation changes, and leadership difficulty. We must never confuse what is measurable compared to what is valuable. The greatest leaders invest in the behaviors and the relationships that ultimately produce this extraordinary measurable outcomes. And as we get into the first lesson to distinguish of what to measure and the danger of measuring the simple things, the obvious things, utilizing dashboards that may not be indicative, aligned, or provide the value that we need to assess. The first lesson that we're going to teach today, and by the way, if you'd like the replay, exercises, guides, and books from today, I'm the beloved servant. David means beloved. At D is my first initial. Meltzer means servant. Let me be that beloved servant. Email me if you need anything from this training, including the replay. David at dmeltzer.com. Right there. David at dmeltzer.com. Blaine, the first lesson I would like to share is don't confuse measurement with value. And I think a lot of people don't understand value, and so they measure things that are arbitrary, capricious, and nonsensical. Numbers provide information. That's all they really do. And there's a lot of information to reconcile, but they don't always provide the wisdom. This is a big distinction between knowledge and wisdom today. And when we prioritize only what is easy to measure, we risk ignoring the factors, the behaviors, the capabilities that create lasting success. And so many companies that celebrate record quarters, years, revenues, employees, engagement, they don't look at those things. They're just looking at these quarterly numbers, while there's a degradation, a disintegration of engagement for sure, customer trust, And slowly but surely, their innovation, which is happening today to so many people, may be at the top of their game, but be completely useless by the end of the next quarter. How do we, Blaine, if we're not going to, confuse the measurement of revenue and quarterly numbers and board requirements, how do we measure value?
That is the $64,000 question. and that dates me a little bit just in saying that, but the value is linked to what makes us as an organization unique. And that unique way that we go to business, that unique product offering mix that we have, what makes us unique? That's the value proposition. And most metrics, and you mentioned this, we prioritize what's easy to measure. And what's easy to measure is what's historically always been measured and what the street pays attention to, what our board says is important. Leaders today need to really hone in on what makes us as an organization unique. What's our unique value proposition? And then organize metrics that are consistent with the delivery of and the creation of that value proposition. This is not easy to do. It's not a question that most executive teams wrestle with. What makes us unique? That's not a question that most of us have heard the CEO talk about. So if you can begin to hone in on that, then you can begin to develop metrics that are consistent with that future state, because that value, that what makes us unique is expressed in the future. It's not measured in today. It's expressed in the future. So we're continuously growing into that. The lifespan of most organizations is less than a human being. So
yeah, and go ahead. Sorry.
There you go. So yeah, and it's less than a human being because we measure the wrong things. We pay attention to the wrong things that are actually compromising our ability to thrive long term as an organization.
Yeah, and these dashboards really give us a good picture of where we've been. But more than ever today, our culture, people work for cultures, not companies. Our culture determines where we're going. And so we need to measure with engagement, productivity, accessibility, even gratitude, where our culture is to get the right talent acquisition, the right talent development. And of course, most valuable to a culture is talent retention. And so differentiating between these metrics are quite important, and evaluating the success beyond financial performance is crucial. And so when we focus in on the long-term enterprise value instead of short-term past benefit of numbers, revenue, quarterly requirements, we can surely create a great measurement of value. If you'd like to learn more about how to measure value, just email me, david@dmeltzer.com. The second lesson today in the danger of measuring the wrong things is understanding leading versus lagging, and those indicators that give us a true awareness to whether we're leading or lagging in the industry, career, job in which we are working within. And a lot of organizations spend the majority of their attention on lagging indicators, the past, results that have already occurred. And great leaders focus in on the leading behaviors, the impactful behaviors that will influence these future outcomes. Revenue is dangerous because you need to look at it. It's a requirement. It's a measurement that most boards and public shareholders are looking at, but they still reflect yesterday's decisions. It is trust, communication, accountability, and consistency that will determine tomorrow's numbers, tomorrow's measurements, tomorrow's revenue. And the greatest competitive advantage that are built long before they ever appear on the quarterly statements, the P&Ls, the balance sheets, they never reflect that competitive advantage. And so, Blaine, how do we identify these leading indicators
to help us not just reflect on the revenue of the past, but to guide us with trust, communication, accountability, and consistency.
I think the easiest way to think about this is when you think about leading versus lagging indicators, think of metrics that are organized around success and succeeding. So the success is kind of the endpoint. That's what the idiot light shows on the dashboard. Yeah, we're successful here. The succeeding criteria are the ones that contributed to that dashboard metric showing up. That's what we want to be actually paying some attention to. So what are the elements that go into, what's the first cause? You kind of go back to first cause. What are the things that we need to measure? Now, here's where it gets interesting. Most metrics are organized to measure what has already happened. What we say is important, what the board says is important, that sort of thing. If we've got a future state that we're moving towards, we want to identify what are the succeeding criteria that will get us to that point there. They're going to be different than what got us here right now. So you begin to identify different succeeding criteria. So, one of the things that I do with my clients when we're working with them is, you begin to, you come from that future state, you lead from that future state. So the way you do that is you insist that people behave today, think today, speak today, as if that future were already here. That invites an exploration of what are we measuring? If we're measuring what was, we're not behaving in concert with what could be. So I want to measure the behavior that will get me where I'm going, not what got me here. That sort of thing. I want to measure the thinking that will get me there, not what got me here. I want to measure the conversations that will get me there, not what got me here. That's a succeeding criteria.
And a lot of people won't invest the time to strengthen these behaviors, as you mentioned. They know that that's what drives future success, but they usually justify why they're not where they want to be because they didn't have time to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday trainings, to have calendar reviews and things that are behavioral to review the progress as well as the behaviors and the outcomes. We need to understand what is the difference between leading and lagging indicators, and those behaviors and the strengthening of those behaviors will help us to quantify the outcomes before they happen. If you'd like to understand leading versus lagging indicators, let me be your beloved servant. David means beloved. At D is my first initial. Meltzer means servant. Email me if you like the replays, guides, or exercises, lessons for the day, david@dmeltzer.com. The third lesson, Blaine, is this idea of invisible assets. There's so many things that can't be seen and that are ignored because they're invisible. The most valuable assets in an organization rarely appears on the balance sheet, the P&L, or on the quarterly reports. Yet these invisible assets, they compound as well every day, just like revenue. Organizations with strong cultures, trusted leadership, loyal customers that buy from you and sell for you, and engaged employees consistently will outperform all of their competitors all of the time. We keep talking about trust. We keep talking about relationships. We talk about the credibility and the purpose and gratitude, empathy, accountability, and effective communication. These are the assets that appreciate, compound, and accelerate and aggregate because they are intentional investments. For you, Blaine, as we look at prioritizing these different cultural strengths of trust, loyalty, and engagement, as we create these systems, what have you found is the best practice for companies to help facilitate building the trust, the loyalty, and the engagement, and use those as invisible assets to provide guaranteed success in the future?
I think meetings are the lingua franca of, if you will, of most organizations. Everything happens in a meeting in some way, shape, or form. Meetings help people exchange information. Conversations help people think better together. So one of the things that we want to be able to do is find ways to develop the conversational muscle in an organization. You know, and you've heard me say this a number of times, all any organization is, and I don't care the size of it or the nature of it, all any organization is a collection of people in relationship. If the relationships are working pretty good, you got a pretty good shot at being successful. Conversation is the kind of the oil, if you will, the lubricant that allows for relationships to work well. And relationships are not just interpersonal. I've got a relationship with vision, I got a relationship with values, and this is the cultural dynamic that comes into play. So curating high quality relational conversations. Most meetings will focus on what are we doing? Let's report on what we've done. We want to have conversations about how are we doing? That's a different come from. And we can measure that in a different way as well. So we want to be able to measure the how as well as the what. And we do that through conversational focus.
Yeah, and our framework is the what, the who, the how, and the now are the 4 different subject topics and expertises of a culture to know what do we want in the divine direction, who can we help and who can help us, how best, as you mentioned, can we get that done, and then the prioritization of knowing what's important to the culture, the trust, the engagement, and loyalty is essential. If you want to learn how to build the invisible assets in your company, email me, david@dmeltzer.com, david@dmeltzer.com. Lesson number 4, there's 3 filters of leadership that I utilize in understanding the lenses of success. Every opportunity and an option, touch of favor, initiative, and decision should be evaluated beyond the measurable return. An initiative may increase quarterly profits, but damage employee morale or customer loyalty over time. When we're pursuing these opportunities, and touches of favor, what are some of the key questions that we should ask ourselves to measure it and manage it instead of building value?
The 3 basic ones that come up here. Yeah, number 1, can we measure it? So you want to be able to identify that, because if you can't measure it, you're not going to have people's focus on what needs to be done, because it just becomes amorphous. Can you feel it? And you want to be able to feel it. So how do you measure feeling? So that kind of comes into play here. So that shows up through employee engagement metrics. Yeah. And I'm talking about emotional engagement. Yeah. How can you measure that? And then the final one, go ahead.
I just had to ask real quick, because I think people overlook this engagement issue.
Yeah.
You and I have had deep discussions with some of the biggest companies in the world, because I believe engagement is the critical variable to success. And it is also probably the biggest challenge, especially in America, that most employees are not the Nick of Wham. They're not Marissa Meltzer. They're not Mikey Allen. They literally are not engaged. And I think it's over 90% are literally at such a low percentage of engagement. What do you know about this engagement variable?
Gallup has done a survey for years, for decades, literally looking at our employee engagement globally. And to your point, roughly 87%, 87 to 92% of employees surveyed worldwide are emotionally disengaged from their work to a significant degree. And leaders, there's about $46 billion spent annually trying to increase employee engagement, and it doesn't move the needle at all, because we're not paying attention to the correct thing. Most leaders are not measuring what needs to be measured, and that has to do with meaning. Are we generating enough meaning in the system for people to say, that's important to me? Yeah. So why does this matter? Why does this matter? That's where the feeling piece comes into play. And it's not just go out there and hit another 10% increase in revenue. I can measure that, in my sleep, but can I get people to care about doing something a little different that ends up resulting in a net increase in revenue, and it's the meaning that it generates that. And so that's why we're talking about, can you feel it? Can you measure the feeling? Yes, you can. It's an emotional engagement, and it shows up in net promoter scores. It shows up in employee engagement surveys. You can measure this stuff.
Yeah. So we have measuring it, feeling it, and that third filter of
Sustaining it.
Yeah. And that's where the employee retention comes in.
Exactly.
Because that's the only way to sustain it. If anybody wants to learn more about these three filters of leadership, how to measure, feel, and sustain, just email me, david@dmeltzer.com, david@dmeltzer.com. The next lesson, knowing what matters most so we can measure that. Every KPI influences behaviors. If we measure the wrong things, and the danger in measuring the wrong things, we then change behaviors that interfere, not align with the divine direction of our business. We actually will encourage the wrong behaviors, the wrong actions. I see so many sales teams that I work with, Blaine, they're measured only by volume and they sacrifice customer relations. When I say customers, it's internal, external, vendors, channel partners. All of these I consider a customer, especially in the sales side of it. And they sacrifice that relationship for an immediate transaction.
Yep.
And so these reports, these KPIs, may improve bottom line for a short term, but they don't improve behavior. They actually interfere with improved behavior. In looking at KPIs, what value, as we look to see what we measure or matters most, what do we look at to see how those numbers are relative to behaviors, or the KPI itself is irrelevant to the future? How and what do we do to know what matters most when we're measuring these KPIs?
Let's go back to the the notion that all any organization is a collection of people in a relationship. That includes my relationship with my customers, my vendors, my suppliers, as well as my employees, all that sort of stuff. One of the classic KPIs that most organizations, particularly those that are in a retail position, will measure is customer satisfaction. Customer satisfaction is based on transactional outcomes. Was the customer satisfied or not with this transaction? It does not measure loyalty. The problem with a customer satisfaction metric, and that's all we're tracking, you begin to train people to behave in a way that says, give the customer anything that they want because we don't want to risk them being disappointed. If you're looking at measuring customer loyalty, now you change the conversation. You begin looking through the lens of, how can I assist this customer more effectively? I may disappoint them in this transaction, but long term, they literally become partners with them in achieving an outcome perhaps they didn't even know that they wanted. So if we can begin measuring customer loyalty, and this will show up in net promoter scores, as an example. An NPS score is different than a customer satisfaction score, and it actually trains the staff to behave in a different way because we're looking at a different succeeding criteria. Loyalty, not satisfaction.
Yeah, and loyalty adds that exponential factoring to business because a loyal customer sells for you for life.
Yep.
And we can see quantitative measurements by understanding where our new business comes from. Does our new business come from our old business? That's a critical quantitative measurement that matters most to me, because I know that those reflective past numbers of quarterly reports show me who bought from us, but the future will be driven by who's selling for us. And no better salesperson than a customer to derive. It's the least expensive and most powerful sales force in the world is your customer base, your community. If you would like to learn to measure what matters most, Email me, beloved servant. David means beloved at D, first initial. Meltzer means servant. Email me, pinned right below, David at dmeltzer.com. David at dmeltzer.com. Coming into the home stretch, the final lesson of the day in the danger of measuring the wrong things is, how do we build a legacy, not just a dashboard? You know, in wealth, generational wealth, very similar to this building of a legacy. If you want generational wealth, you need to have assets that create interest that exponentially grows tax-free. And I think this can be applied analogously to building a legacy in your business comparatively to just income or a dashboard. Because organizations that endure focus, intention, attention on developing people, champions, before optimizing numbers, they have sustainable growth that always begins with the people, with the leadership, with the champions. I was with Nick Saban, as I mentioned to you, a couple weeks past, and I loved when he said, Dave, I stopped worrying about championships. I started focusing in on building champions, because champions win championships. And these companies that Nick and I and you work with the greatest enterprise value, consistently invest in one thing: their people. Relationships, communication, loyalty, execution, engagement, and culture. All of these things relative to these people, they invest in these things long before those investments ever appear on a P&L or balance sheet or quarterly report. People manage what they measure. Great leaders like Nick Saban and Blaine Bartlett also measure what matters. Blaine, people are so important. And if we want to optimize our numbers, we need to build champions. What have you found to be the best way to empower, to encourage the loyalty, the excitement, inspiration that's necessary to build champions? What are some of the things that people care most about? And I don't think it's their salary.
It definitely isn't. And first of all, thank you for putting me in the same class as Nick. Appreciate that. But to his point, we build great companies by building great people. I mean, it fundamentally is that simple. We build great companies by building great people. And to the answer to your question here, what we can do is we can begin to examine our thinking. One of the things that we measure, we look at our balance sheet, we look at our P&L. We carry the employee base on the balance sheet as an asset, and over time, for tax purposes, we depreciate assets. So there's an inherent bias towards depreciating that people asset. We say they're our greatest asset, but we don't behave as if they are. We look at them as a line item on the P&L, and it's an expense line item. So we're looking for ways to reduce the expense. So what that looks like is we don't invest in them. We treat it as an expense, not as an investment. So one of the simplest things that we can do is begin to recalibrate our thinking. If we're going to build a great company, we need to build great people. So how do we go about measuring how we're doing with that? It starts with our onboarding process. It starts with identifying what is value. What is the contribution that you're making? Asking people, how can you best contribute to what we're doing here? Those sorts of things start to come into play, and they will give you an answer. Here's the best way you can utilize me. And all of a sudden, I feel as if I'm valued. If I feel valued, I'm going to be innovative, I'm going to be creative, and we start working with it. This takes time. It's not a short-term fix.
And we all know if you take that short-term fix, if you cut the line, you're going to go back to the back of the line. There's no way to build a legacy or a dashboard. If you want to know how to build a legacy with measurement, email me, David at dmeltzer.com. If you'd like the replay of this training, once again, David is beloved at D, my first initial. Meltzer means servant. Email me, David at dmeltzer.com. The organizations that create lasting impact don't simply optimize their dashboards. It's quite easy today with AI, to be honest, but they cultivate trust, relationships, purpose, and culture. Those invisible investments eventually produce the extraordinary balance sheets, P&Ls, and measurable results. The greatest companies don't outperform because they track more numbers. They outperform because they enjoy the consistent, persistent pursuit of their potential to improve the things that most people overlook. Success is not found in controlling every metric. Success comes from that enjoyment of consistent, persistent pursuit of your potential. It comes from consistently investing in the invisible behaviors that create the extraordinary, visible, quantitative results. Once again, if you would like to replay from today the books, the guides, the exercises from each of these lessons on the danger of measuring the wrong things, email me, david@dmeltzer.com. Blaine Bartlett, we hope to see you in one of these cities we're in. I know you have graciously volunteered your time for the next half an hour to answer questions, the Q&A of the day. Please, with all my appreciation, thank you for pouring into our community. He is the best mentor, coach, and teacher that I know. He turns possibilities into reality. His name is Blaine Bartlett. Go to blainebartlett.com or email me, david@dmeltzer.com. Blaine, thank you so much. I'll see you next week.
You bet. Tell Mr. Messi hello for me.
I will. He's a little exhausted, but we'll at least
I'm sure.
At least going to say hi for 5 minutes. All right. Thanks. Right on.
Here live in the Breakfast with Champions on Clubhouse.
I can hear you. I'll turn my mic on and we're good to go.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Mr. Blaine, for sticking around for the next half hour for this Q&A session with our incredible community. And just a reminder to everybody, for everyone that is joining us online via the multicast live on all platforms, please make sure to put your questions for Blaine today into the chat. And of course, for any of our friends here in the Breakfast with Champions, the greatest room and community on Clubhouse, as you have your questions for the double B, that is Blaine Bartlett, make sure to use the hand icon in the lower left-hand corner of your screen to request to join the stage. And of course, we will bring you up. And for any of our friends that are currently on stage, if you have a question for Blaine today, just go ahead and put a quick note in the room chat, and I will be happy to pass the mic over your way. Now, without further ado, for the first question of the day, we got the young buck. We got Jared Walsh, who is here on stage patiently waiting. So, Jared, my friend, it is great to see you. Why don't you unmute yourself and kick us off with the first question of the day?
Good morning, Nick. Thank you very much. Blaine, thank you again for being here and answering our questions.
You bet, Jared. Good to have you back.
Thank you. My question, I wanted to circle back to engagement and having it be measured, felt, and sustained. And I wanted to know from you, what does an engaged person measure every single day that a disengaged person would never even think of?
That's a great question. An engaged person, let me think about that for a moment. What I would actually, I'm just kind of checking in my own experience here. When I'm fully engaged in something at an emotional level, I lose track of time. I feel particularly creative. So what do I end up measuring? If I was to step back from it and start to assess at the end of the day, how was I doing? What was in play for me? I would actually begin to measure not so much productivity, but how joyful did I feel while I was, and I don't mean bouncing off the walls, but how joyful did I feel? How fulfilled did I feel at the end of that day? And that fulfillment piece is, I think, one way that we can actually begin to organize our work day. What allows me to feel fulfilled? Because I'm spending / investing 8 to 10 hours a day doing what I'm doing. Is it worth the expenditure of my life's energy to do that? There's that ROI is measured in fulfillment. That's now, how do you begin to bring that to the table in an organization? Through conversation, because everybody's going to have a little bit different tweak on that. but you can actually begin to filter commentary so that the conversations have a way to be captured that can give you a succeeding indication, a succeeding criteria. So it shows up behaviorally in terms of are people staying late? Are they watching the clock, as an example? Are they bringing ideas to the table that are not solicited? They're just bringing them because it's something that they know that is going to succeed down the road, or they hope will. Those sorts of things start to come into play here. But fulfillment, I think, at the end of the day, is the way that I actually would experience my engagement. And this is something that I check in with on a pretty regular basis with myself at the end of the day.
Thank you, Blaine. That's perfectly clear. If you don't mind, I'd love to add on to that. You talked a lot about how what you measure comes from what you felt. And it makes me think, do you look through those three lenses of measured, felt, and sustained all at once, or does it come in a certain succession?
For me, and this is just kind of my own experience with this. I start with fulfillment. How am I feeling now? And by feeling, I'm talking, not sad or anything, but am I feeling engaged? Am I feeling invested? Am I feeling involved? That translates into this thing that I call fulfillment. And then I, look at it through the lens of sustainability. Is this something that is consistently going on? If I'm missing the mark, Steve Jobs talked about this, at one point in his, I think of the Stanford talk that he gave. If I notice that I'm missing the mark, more than 3 days in a row, I need to stop and assess what it is that I'm doing. So that sort of a dynamic comes into play. So I start with fulfillment, then I look at it through the lens of sustainability. And the metric piece of it, actually shows up in a number of different ways. It's going to be kind of situational. Am I, trying something new? So I start looking at how, if it's something new that I'm doing, how many books did I read, or how many articles did I access that are, there's a different, and it's situational. So you start making the metric up in one sense, but the baseline is around fulfillment.
Okay, that's perfectly clear. Thank you, Blaine. That's brilliant.
Okay, thank you, Jared. Love that question.
We love the curiosity, Jared, and appreciate you showing up week by week here to be with both David as well as the double B. That is Blaine Bartlett. You can, of course, reach him at blainebartlett.com. Now, for our next question of the day, I'm going to pass it over to the lovely Colleen Malloy, who is patiently waiting here on stage. Colleen, the mic is yours. Take it away.
Thank you so much. Hey, Blaine.
Hey, Colleen. How you doing?
So I've been so fascinated with the last couple of trainings you guys have done together. And there's this conversation around that invisible world where all of the information lives. Both you and Dave are so good in at tapping into and channeling. Something that comes pretty naturally, where you guys just have access to this information. Sometimes it's just flowing through you. Sometimes, Dave comes off of a stage and is like, I don't even know what I said, but it was so natural because he was, in tune. And so I think that translates a lot to legacy and the things that, the wisdom that you intake, and the teachings that you're able to incorporate into, the communities that you're educating. So my question is, is that invisible world, is that something that you access, or is that something that you guys just allow to happen? And kind of what is the difference between, tapping into it and just surrender to it?
The key word there, Colleen, is surrendering. When I go up on a platform, when I go up on a stage, or actually when I'm coaching, I fumble with this because it's hard to describe accessing that state. I literally have to get out of my own way, I think, is the easiest way to say it. I have to get out of the egoic way that is, present for most people. I don't care what I sound like. I don't care what, when I say I don't care, I'm not caring from what will they think of me if I say this or do that or move in that direction? That has been put aside. And as soon as I move that aside, now because the ego has been suspended, if you will, I now have access to the stream of consciousness that's moving to and through me. And, like David, I'll come off a stage and I have absolutely no memory of what it was that I said. People will come up to me and say, yeah, that was amazing. And it rocked my world and it changed my life. And I'm going, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
And that's, spirit is always moving to and through us, but it gets impeded when our ego gets in the way and we start filtering for mostly what will people think of me. And when you can suspend attachment, your attachment to your ego, you make
Right.
room for something else to be accessed.
Yeah, that's always a challenge, right? That
Yep.
ego state of fearing what other people think. So
Yeah.
I appreciate the clarity.
One way that you can practice this, if it's helpful, there's people will typically mentally will occupy three different positions. Yeah, in position 1, 2, and 3. Position 1 is I'm just aware of myself. That's all. The world revolves around me. Everything is there. Position 2, I'm aware of myself and I'm aware of you. And so I can kind of notice that there's that dynamic and there's a relational piece that's going on. Position 3 is a superposition where I pop out. I mean, I'll use the word pop out. I just kind of move above, and it's an observer state where I'm actually watching this interaction occur. And from that third person position, I'm actually not egoically invested. I'm actually I'm just in a position of noticing rather than directing. And that allows me to have access to information that I wouldn't have access to in the first position or the second position.
Right.
It's a shift in perspective.
Well, thank you for that.
You bet.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Colleen. And for the next question of the day, I'm going to pass it over to Mike, who is here on stage. Mike, my friend, it is good to see you here. Why don't you unmute yourself and carry us on with the next question?
Amazing. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, Mike. Yes.
Amazing. Blaine, thinking of this training and thinking of obviously your expertise, obviously, especially in the area of leadership, I questioned you, if you can name 3 characteristics that from what you've seen and obviously your incredible career are kind of like your main takeaways, because there's so many different styles, if you will, of leadership, but what are like the 3 characteristics that you've seen kind of hold true through your career when working with incredible leaders?
The first one that comes to mind is curiosity. Some of the most effective leaders I've ever worked with are voracious learners. They read a lot. They're curious. They don't just accept at first blush, a reason for something happening in the way that it happened. They go, well, okay, let's unbundle that and explore that a little bit, particularly if it begins to become patterned. So curiosity is probably the number one trait. The second one, and I just mentioned it, is coupled with this, they are voracious learners. They're curious, and they tend to be pretty eclectic in their learning profile. They'll go far afield from what their primary remit is. So I mean, I've got on my bookshelf, I've got quantum physics, I've got autobiographies, I've got poetry. But all of it comes together in some way, shape, or form. There's a synthesis, and this is the other thing that I think most of these highly effective leaders that I've experienced actually work with. They are synthesizers. So the curiosity comes into play. The learning is very present there. They got access to information and knowledge, but they have the ability to synthesize the information and what it is that they've got going on in their mind in a way that's applicable to what it is that they're dealing with. So that synthesis, the connecting of the dots, if you will, that comes together. So those would be the 3 primary traits that they seem to, and I'll go out of the way here. They'll curate these traits. They'll foster curiosity. They generously learn, and they continuously are looking for ways to apply. So those three things come into mind.
Amazing. Thank you, Blaine.
You bet, Mike.
Really appreciate that.
You betcha.
Thank you so much, Mike. And just doing a final reset of the room here as we enter into what is the fourth quarter of today's Napoleon Hill Institute training. This is, of course, the bonus session, extra 30 minutes as we get the blessing of having the double B, that is Blaine Bartlett. You can reach him at blainebartlett.com as he has joined us here and is so gracious with his time to be of service or further being of service by answering everybody's questions. So as a reminder, if you are on the webinar, go ahead and put your questions into the chat. And if you are live here on Clubhouse, either go ahead and request to join the stage using the hand icon in the lower left-hand corner of your screen, or just put a quick note in the room chat and I'll be happy to pass the mic over or send you an invite to join stage as well. Now, without further ado, for our next question, I'm going to pass it over to Ali, and then we're going to go to Robert. Robert, you are on deck, my friend. But without further ado, Ali, the mic is yours, my dear. Take it over and keep us rolling.
Thank you, Nick. Hi, Blaine.
Hi, Ali. One more time with feeling here, huh?
Yes, I love it. Awesome training. You talked a lot about how what we measure shapes where we put our attention. And I want to flip the script throughout your journey, looking back. What's something that you actually stopped paying attention to because you realized it wasn't what actually drove the long-term success and the true ROI long-term that you eventually found?
Yeah, that's a great question. The simple answer, and I do have a ready answer for that. I stopped paying attention to other people's approval. That's, I stopped paying attention to that. And when I stopped paying attention to that, I was actually able to start being far more effective. I was far more honest. I was far more congruent. I was far more authentic. And it was that authentic. People connect through authenticity. They disconnect through certainty. And as long as I was paying attention to other people's approval, I was trying to position myself as certain around things. And that's, we disconnect through certainty. We connect through vulnerability. Vulnerability is scary, but it's also something that is in place when you stop worrying about what other people think of you. And then you start just behaving authentically and working from that position.
Wow. Very to the point, but very, very powerful. Definitely applies to my life right now. And it is hard, to push through those moments when there's a lot of weight there, but appreciate you always in the mentorship.
My pleasure. Thank you. I appreciate your questions always.
Thank you so much, Ali. And as mentioned, Robert, the mic is yours, my friend. Keep us going with the next question.
Thank you, Nick. Blaine, awesome to be here. I love the topic today, the danger of measuring the wrong things. And I had one question in particular. Starting a new business, I have one partner. We eventually will onboard some more people. But how do I go about communicating when we have different ideas on how to run the company? And I believe, we both have valid directions we want to bring it, which is really in the same direction, but the approach might be slightly different.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Welcome to the marriage. Yes.
For me, it's more about keeping the lights on, and him, it's more about cultivating relationships and building a team brick by brick.
Yeah.
Which sometimes the lights go out, in the process.
So I love that question, Robert. And essentially what you're looking at is a scaling question, but they're not antithetical. They are not oil and water. Both of them need to coexist, and you need to find a way with your partner to figure out how that coexisting actually looks. So, you're going to want to begin conversations with your partner that are predicated on what matters right now. And when you begin, rather than what are we doing, what matters to you, what matters to me, what matters to us, and you may have three different answers to those questions. What matters to me, what matters to you, what matters to us. When you can get clarity around what matters, then you can begin to go to what do we need to do to achieve what matters in the most elegant way that we can. Now, by elegant, I'm talking about minimal unintended consequences. You're gonna, the beauty of relationship is that conflict is present. I mean, and I really literally mean this. You want to have conflict in the conversation, not a war, but the conflict of ideas. And if you're willing to stay in the heat of the conflict long enough, organized around what matters, you will find a resolution that is amenable to both. And it's not about a compromise. It's about the emergence of a new idea, a way of interacting, a way of going to market, a way of operating that neither of you had thought about before. It may be an amalgam of a couple of different ideas that you've explored before, but you keep it organized around for the sake of what? What matters here? What matters to me? What matters to you? What matters to us? And those three things become your touchstone, your North Star.
That's amazing, Blaine. And our communications have been going pretty well. I've been kind of limiting it to open-ended questions, partly because, I kind of want to feel out what direction he wants to go without just saying yes or no. So
Yeah,
it's been helping a lot.
Good. Yeah, you want to be cautious, particularly at this stage in the organization. You want to be cautious about jumping to a hard and fast how, because at this stage, it's embryonic. You're going to be experimenting with a number of different things, and it's there's a growth dynamic in play here. The desire to go to how we're going to do this can be real seductive, and it can also be a real minefield if you're not careful with it.
Thank you so much, Blaine. That's amazing.
You bet, Robert.
Awesome. And for our next question here, please forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong, but I believe it's Bade. Bade is patiently here on stage. Feel free to unmute yourself and keep us rolling.
Hi, it's Bade.
Awesome.
My name is Bade.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you too. So I have a question, because you talked about the importance of conversation, right? And not only in business field, like any area of life. So I want to know, are all conversations worth having? Like, how do you know you're in a conversation that only drains your energy and doesn't add any value to your life? Because I tend to have this fear to leave a conversation because maybe in the end of it, I will receive something valuable to me.
Mm-hmm. You've answered your own question, Bade. If you feel drained, that is a pretty good indicator that the conversation is not going to be as fruitful or as fulfilling as you would like it to be. And I would go back to what I was just speaking with Robert about. What's the intention of the conversation? What matters here? Now, you're going to have social conversations where, you're just going to have social conversations. But if it's in a business context in particular, what's the intention of having this conversation? What are we, because most conversations in a business environment are organized around solving a problem, okay, in some way, shape, or form. So what's the intention of this conversation? And what matters in terms of not only what the outcome of the conversation is, but what matters in terms of how we conduct this conversation. So that that how we conduct the conversation speaks to the integrity of both parties. This is I want to how we conduct this conversation. I want to conduct it in a manner in which I feel heard, I feel respected, I can voice concerns, I feel safe. I mean, those sorts of parameters start to come into play here. You may not have that up front with every conversation that you have, but over time, if you can begin to organize that in your thinking about how you approach the conversations, you begin, we're continuously in the process of training people how to interact with us. Every time I have a conversation with somebody, basically it's a training ground for them to learn how to best interact with me. So I want to know what my criteria are for a successful conversation. in terms of how I feel about myself, about how I feel about the conversation itself. Do I feel heard? Do I feel safe? Those sorts of things come into and I start organizing my behavior and the conversational dynamic around those elements.
All right. That was really helpful. Thank you so much.
You bet, buddy.
Awesome. Well, want to thank you again, Mr. Blaine, for taking the extra time to join us here and extend this incredible Napoleon Hill Institute training with the 30 minutes of bonus Q&A with the double B. You can, of course, reach him at blainebartlett.com. Where else can people get in touch with you, Blaine? I'm sure you can see it in the chat on our multicast, let alone here in the Breakfast with Champions, that this community only continues to grow and get even bigger. So I know that people want to get in touch with you. How can they best do so?
The easiest visibility wise, LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, pretty obviously. I've got two websites. One is my personal website, blainebartlett.com. I've got a leadership community that we work with, and it's leader.blainebartlett.com/SOBE community. So there's that. And then my direct email address is bbartlett@avatar-resources.com. And Gigi, thank you for putting that up on the Sharon there. Yeah. So bbartlett@avatar-resources.com, leader.blainebartlett.com/SOBE community, or just the general website, which is blainebartlett.com.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Blaine. And I'm going to go ahead and just close out the session in the room here by, of course, reminding everybody that if they would like the guide, exercise, or replay from today's training, all you need to do is email the beloved servant himself, david@dmeltzer.com. Once again, that is just david@dmeltzer.com. And of course, this would not be another David Meltzer Napoleon Hill Institute training if we were not inviting everybody to come and join us in person. Of course, we are on the road to over 200 cities every single year. As we come into those cities, we like to add on what we call a car wash, which is the addition of a community meetup, holding court, or even one of our VIP dinners for charity. So if you are in Miami, please come and join us, as we are going to be here today and tomorrow, adding on a car wash while we're here in Miami with Inner CF Miami and the football game day experience today, meet up and holding court tomorrow. So if you would like to join us on short notice, make sure to just email me directly, Nick, N-I-C, @dmeltzer.com. Then from there, we're going to be jumping across the pond over to London for our private members only mastermind experience plus car wash. Then jumping over to Breckenridge, Colorado with the Breckenridge Golf Club, the PGA Pro, Virgil Herring, our Broadway and American Idol star, Justin Guarini, and LinkedIn cash flow expert, Kim Walsh Phillips, let alone many, many more there in Breckenridge as well, adding on a car wash once again. Then we'll be off to Atlanta, Georgia with the EO chapter and our friends Kim and Justin once again, adding on a car wash there in Atlanta. Back to Viva Las Vegas for the production of 2 Minute Drills, season number 8 at SiriusXM Studios in the lobby of the Wynn, plus car wash there in Vegas. Then we'll be in San Diego, California for another car wash, and then back even at SoFi Stadium for another car wash at the greatest stadium in the world in Los Angeles. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I know that is way too much to keep up with, which is intentional, and that's why we created our text community, to give you the reminders on where we're going to be in these 200 invitations but not obligations a year. So if you would like to join us, just text us at area code 949. Next 3 digits are 298. Last 4 digits are 2905 to get the reminders on where we're going to be and all of our invitations, but not obligations. Of course, we will be back next Wednesday with another edition of the Napoleon Hill Institute training. But in the meantime, join us this Friday, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for another edition of David's Free Friday trainings that he has been doing for over 28 years. Everybody enjoy the rest of course, your incredible Wednesday ahead. And as we close out today's training, I want to remind you all, in the wise words of David, to continue to be more interested than interesting, and be kind. Be kind to your future self and do good deeds. Gigi, hit it.
Hey! Hey! the number. Let your phone ring, 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 ring. 94929829005. That's 9492905. Events, connection, and opportunity. All in one place. Come join the community. So text it now, don't wait in line. Right for life. 94929829005. That's 94929829005.
They discovered it, they read it, and they applied it. It's the golden thread that connects the titans of the self-development industry, the source that spawned millions of millionaires, the original blueprint to success.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Think and Grow Rich.
Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. It's a classic. A classic.
And I love Think and Grow Rich. I love it. It's right here. I mean, it's one of my favorite books of all time.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
This material is what changed my life. This is the material I study every day. From being an immigrant woman, coming from poverty, and really coming to America and literally achieving the American dream. I can't even tell you how grateful I am for this man, for what he did for me and my family.
Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve.
People don't realize is that when we let our ego get in our way, ego is the loss, the fear of loss. So need to be right, the need to be offended, the need to be hurt, fearful. When that trajectory changes, what happens is you continually go the wrong way. So my job as a coach is to say, let's get into the enjoyment of the direct pursuit of my potential. Right? And so when the light went on, it was not about the potential of making money and being an entrepreneur, which is one of my specialties. And I said to him, look, this is an opportunity now to show how great you really are. We can't let the outside voices, right, determine our success. The happiness that we have comes within. Why are you going to give that control to somebody else?
Thoughts become things. And I always wonder, why did no one teach us this? Why did we not learn this in school? Why did we not learn this from our families? If you make your study a priority, your life will change.
And I came up with 4 really valuable things that I took stock in. And the first one was gratitude. Simple gratitude. Although I grew up with nothing, I was always grateful. Throughout the whole process of consistently, persistently pursuing my potential, I was grateful. It made my past better, my present brighter, and my future even brighter than that. In fact, I tell people all the time, if you want to change your life, change your employee's life, your family life, it's very simple. 2 words, say thank you.